everyone. Welcome to the Performers Pod. I'm Chelsea Poe. I'm here with multi-award nominated performer Kezia. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. I feel like we followed each other on social media for quite a while now.
Yes,
I don't
for
think
so
we,
long now. Oh my gosh.
yeah, I don't think we've ever met in person. We've probably been at the same conventions, but I feel like these conventions are so much just rushing around and you meet someone for like 2
Right.
seconds.
Right. I want to say I think I saw you on like the other side of the room and I was like, "Oh, hey, Chelsea." And then like by the time I made my way over there, like everyone had moved. And I was like, "Well, okay, there goes."
Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely sounds like it. So lately, I've been having so many people on who have started doing sex work during the pandemic. So it's always great to
Yeah.
talk to someone who you started in 2013 as well as I did, correct?
Oof, yes.
Where
Hitting
are
a
you
decade now
based?
next year. Ooh.
Congratulations. It's so crazy because
So,
I feel like in porn, 10 years is so fucking long.
yes, definitely. Especially with all the changes that's happened in the past decade, it feels like it's been like 20, 30 years.
For sure.
So yeah. Oh,
So
but you asked where I'm
yeah, where did you
based
start
out of.
doing porn and where are you based out of? Kind of both.
Yeah, I am based out of Washington State, like the Seattle
Okay,
area.
nice.
Um, yeah, I guess when I like first was interested in sex work, I was living in San Francisco still. So it was
Mm.
kind of nice being in that scene and then kind of dipping my toes into sex work. And then once I moved here, I was like, well, might as well go all in. So
So you kind of caught the end of the whole queer porn thing here, I'm assuming.
yes, definitely. Yeah. Wait, are you based out of the
Yeah.
States?
Yeah, I'm
That's
in
what I
SF.
thought. Okay.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
yeah, I moved out here. I was working at the Armory at the time as a cam performer, which is
wow. That's so cool.
uh it's a lot.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think were you in Oakland at the time or were you in the city?
In the city, yeah.
So, okay, so you were like one of the few people who was still in the city at the time. I feel like most porn people are in Oakland. Everyone kind of, I felt like lived in a
Right.
4 or 5 block radius.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really shocked by how many people lived in Oakland, but it made a lot of sense. Like easy transportation and everything. So
Yeah. So you kind of caught like the whole end of it, like with like did you work for Crash Pad or like Trouble Films back in the day then, or were you just kind of
no, I had heard about it, like just word of mouth, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. That's fascinating." And I really liked the idea, especially back then. That was just so like different. I guess, yeah, just my only other knowledge of like camming was like Live Jasmine. Is that what it was called?
Oh my God, that's my first campsite and boy did they rip me
Oh,
off. The
oh
the
no,
per
I'm so
the
sorry.
percentage they were taking, and I lived in Michigan at the time and I didn't have any
Oh,
idea.
what was the percentage?
They were taking like 75%. We're
Oh,
looking back, I'm like, wow,
oh
I was
my
making like
God.
okay money, but at the same time I was like charging
They
like
were
nothing.
taking most of it, and oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So were you doing live Jasmine?
No, so I like I started like as weirdly as possible. I just made like a private Tumblr and just started
Oh,
like
those days.
charging
Okay.
people. Yeah,
That makes
that's more
sense.
what I was doing even like back then. Yeah, because that was really popular and I was like I didn't have a big following on Tumblr, but it was like a couple thousand. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so I was able
sizable.
to get yeah, so I was able to get like 50 people right away to jump on my private Tumblr and I just started doing requests, started doing like videos and pictures and private things with like one-on-one and yeah, so I kind of like created my own little world just because I think I was just so scared and I think because I hadn't really seen anyone that was like shaped
Hmm.
like me on Live Jasmine or anything like
Yeah.
that. So I was like, I'm never gonna like qualify for this kind of stuff. So I just started as weirdly as possible.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, when we started, it was so still studio based where it was like a studio needs to
Yes.
hire you and find you to be like this or that. Or even like with Kink, like I heard multiple friends of mine who were like very normal size where they're like, you need to lose 15 pounds if you want to work for us and shit like that.
That makes sense because that, especially like back then, that was the look and style everyone was going
Yeah.
for. So yeah, it was really difficult. And I think that's why even my name is Keziah, because I was like, well, no studio is ever gonna pick me up. So I don't have to worry about any of that. So I think just
Yeah.
yeah, that was my mind frame back then. Just things were totally different. But how were things for you?
I mean, I think both good and bad now looking back. Like the studio problem was like the biggest thing, especially being a trans woman myself. I was like put into this thing where they're like, you need to do trans porn. And I'm like, I don't even like this shit. It's
Oh
dumb.
no,
Because it was like people like
yeah.
faking orgasms and like being
Especially
like,
back
well,
then.
and being
Yeah.
like, well, you're trans, you have to be a dom. I'm like, you don't have any idea about what they
Oh
do at all.
wow.
So like
Oh
even
my
at the armory,
gosh.
they would bring in like three of every kind of person. I don't know if it was intentional. So there'd be like three blonde girls hired at the same time, three brunettes, three trans
Huh.
women. Like it was very intentional. Like they would go down almost like demographically, being like, okay, we can do
Wow.
three of these, because they kind of realized like two would kind of burn out, which kind of
Yeah,
did
they can have
happen. So
rotation.
it's this
Wow.
I mean, it's just so weird now looking back at the studio model, because now with stuff like mini vids, you can become a huge porn star and get nominated for awards, win awards, and not have anything to do with the studio now.
Yeah, that concept was mind blowing to me like in 27, 2018. And that was like the
Yeah.
early years of it. So to think of how things are now that it's like most people I feel like aren't with studios in a way,
Yeah.
unless you're like really a big name. But it's just, yeah, so interesting to see how things have completely shifted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you come from like the golden age of Tumblr porn. I'm like, in my heart, it's just singing. I'm like, that was my favorite era of stuff, because it felt truly just like so DIY and cool that you could just be like, okay, I can just go on Tumblr, post some content, then people are gonna hit me up and try to buy a cam show or want customs or really anything like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, I think that's when I was doing like Skype shows. I think that's
Hmm.
why I when I even messaged you, I was like, here's my Skype email. Because I think I was thinking like, oh wow, like back then it was Skype, you sold Skype dates for a certain
Hell
amount. Like
yes.
that's how it was back then. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
definitely when I
my
was getting
God.
started, I remember posting on like tube sites just like videos, and then I was just like, I'll put my Skype on there and people will hit me up. And that's how it
Exactly.
worked. And it's just
Yes.
like now I'd be
I love
like, fuck no.
I love that. I actually still, because like I still put like my links and stuff at the end
Uh-huh.
of like Pornhub and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I still constantly get people hitting me up through email. And I'm like, is it just because I've been around for so long that people are just like used to this? Or just it's so hard getting people to message me on like the actual platforms? Everyone's just so used to emailing me.
Yeah.
So
So you've
it's
seen like how it went from everything on porn was social media to now like everyone's fucking shadow banned and it doesn't really matter.
yes. Yeah. It's gotten like so much worse in the past couple
So
of weeks.
bad.
But like it's yeah, it was crazy. I was like looking, I think for your Twitter, and I even like
Yeah,
typed
probably.
in your name, didn't pop up. At least before like tweets would pop up or something, nothing popped up. And I was just like, I
Yikes.
have to straight up type your name in now. Like it's a whole other level of shadow banning. And like and to think about how like easy it was to get out there in the early stages of when
Yeah.
people started, because I feel like people started using Twitter more in like 2011, 2012,
Yeah.
2013. But like most people didn't like sex work related didn't jump on, I feel like till 2015. And it just like blossomed there into like a huge
It was
community.
Yeah, it was literally like all the networking inside porn was on Twitter. All the shit I would book was on Twitter. Even studio work where they would like hit me up through my Twitter.
Wow.
So it's just like such a hard thing almost. I think in some ways to reckon with that fact, where it's like
Yes.
I feel like social media is so much of why I've had a following, why I've been able to like speak out like activist wise against like fucked
Yes.
up shit. But at the
Yeah.
same time, now it's just a trash fire that has nothing to do with your industry really anymore. In a lot of
Yeah.
ways,
No.
like it's so hard.
It's yeah. And especially, and I'm not judging anyone or anything, but especially with like, it seems like the newest trend of like new people that jump into sex work is like the separation between, oh, well, I don't do porn, or like I'm not in
Mm,
porn. And like it's just interesting seeing how there's like levels of sex work now according to people, and just before, like how you said, it was just so DIY. It was like, you're gonna hit me up and pay me through some like PayPal
Hmm.
was even like super common back then, and like
I'm
it's
assuming you
just,
got your PayPal also taken.
oh, my cards, my name, everything is banned. I love that. I tried
Yeah.
to even buy like, I think like my gloves or something, and the only options were PayPal, and it would
Yeah.
not. I had to borrow someone else's card.
Uh-huh.
Like it was crazy. Yeah, nothing works.
Yeah, I'm going on
Ooh,
over a decade of being banned on PayPal, so I feel you.
right. And the crazy part is, it was my personal email. I didn't even do like any. I had a different PayPal account for like sex work stuff, and my
Mhm.
personal one got emailed, and I'm like, dang, y'all know everything about me already. Okay.
That shit's
But
so awful.
oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I feel like
Oh,
again, these are things that sex workers who've been in this shit for 10 years know, and not very many other people
yes.
do.
Yes. I was actually gonna ask, what was the first like site you joined? Like,
I joined Live Jasmine back in the
it
day.
was Live Jasmine.
Yeah, in
Okay,
like
yeah.
2011. I remember like the first $20
Yeah.
I made. I was like, what the fuck? It
Oh,
like blew my
yeah.
mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then 75% of that is like,
I think I got
gosh.
25. That's how I always try
Oh, okay.
to think positively with cam money. If I think about the money I'm not getting,
Yes. Yes,
that's
true.
a fucking
Definitely
spiral.
true. Yeah, true. I think that's what like kind of got me towards with the ManyVid stuff like a few years ago, is that I was like, oh my God, they're taking 40. Like
Oh,
I
see, I
had
feel like
that
mini
stuck in my
vids,
head.
I'm like, I think now on cam it's 80%.
Yeah, I think so on cam. Yeah, but I'm still old school with clips, so
Oh
clips is
yeah.
still 60. And I'm just like, no wonder everyone cams on there now, which is super smart. Cause like that's why, like, yeah, when people kind of going off road, but that's why when people ask like what's the best site I've cammed on, personally for me, I'm like, I love Chatterbait. I love like other stuff
Yeah.
like that. But no matter what, I feel like I always just keep going back to ManyVids, just because like the camming, direct to video, like
I mean that they don't
content, like just
care.
everything.
They don't care if you like give out your other links to other shit. Like it's the coolest.
Exactly.
Like
Well,
every other,
they started to care.
well,
Like,
how much do they care?
well, like I know I when I you send out links and stuff, you can't send out like, and then I know like Twitter and other stuff you can, but there's other like Instagram or something that like you can't link to or stuff.
Oh,
So they are, but then there's the problem with how the website's having so many issues lately, and just
yeah. I
yeah.
think like just being able to be like, here's my Cash App or Venmo
Hmm.
there. I think such a different thing because if you do that in Chatterbait, holy fuck.
Yeah. And kind of random too. Like one of the first sites I joined was My
Mhm.
Girlfriend.
Oh my God, that's
Did
such a
you join
throwback.
that?
I never
Yeah,
joined. I
right?
remember it though. I remember that was still like when sex work was super transphobic. I'm like, they're gonna ban me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I you couldn't even send your email. Like,
What?
yeah, like you'd talk about email, or you'd send like an at sign and you'd get warnings for it. And then I got banned for sharing my email, or like like conspicuously sending my email too many times.
Wow. I've actually never been banned from campsites, even though I've
Ooh,
definitely gotten warnings and shit.
yeah.
I don't know. Have you gotten banned from campsites before?
No, I've only gotten booted off with like ID issues when there was another person or stuff like that, which I'm stoked that campsites are that active about it in a way. That's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
there's a person that shouldn't be on it. But no, I think that's the only site I've ever been banned from. No campsites, so.
Yeah. I wonder, like, I'm not trying to unleash a conspiracy theory on
Okay.
this, but I'm like, I wonder how many performers who've camped for over a year actually have been kicked off campsites. These things
Oh
just
yeah.
warnings that they're like, you better not say this, or we're gonna send you a warning.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Like
I
it makes me
remember
wonder if it's all a
actually.
bluff, honestly.
maybe because I know on MFC, and I think rules have changed, but like
Hmm.
back when I was camming on MFC, I like smoked out of my bong, and I guess you weren't allowed to do that. So they'd send me like warnings like you're not allowed to smoke. If you do it again, you'll be like banned for a month and then permanently banned after that. But like kind of like you said, I got that first warning and I was like, oh, I'm scared. I'm never gonna do this again. Don't take away my money, please.
I feel that. Yeah, it makes me wonder. I'm not trying to start a cam conspiracy, but I'm like, do they actually kick girls off?
Hmm.
Because I've never heard of anyone getting kicked off a campsite. I've heard of people getting tons of warnings and shit.
Well, okay, I've heard of people doing racist stuff. And
Okay.
I don't, and then now I'm even like, I don't even know if they got kicked off the site though.
I mean, they should, but I can also see
Definitely.
these
Oh yeah.
campsites being like, well, no, it's a fetish and it's fine.
Because like now I'm like, I feel like this was 5 or 6 years ago at least. There was a model on MFC that had like a bunch of like swastika regalia
Oh my
around
God, I
or
think I
like
remember that.
yeah, now I'm even like I don't remember what happened to that, but I remember it was like a huge thing that people were like, you need to like kick this person off. Like I think that was the first time I saw like the community be like, no, this person's bad, like get rid of them type thing. But
Hopefully they were gotten rid
yeah,
of. I've been on a
yeah,
few panels
seriously.
before where there was like a dom and they're like, I do tons of racial play and it's fine because they're paying me. And I'm just like on the panel being like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to disrupt the panel and be like, no, two white people are gonna fight about this right now.
Yeah, that's a little yeah, that's a whole other area. People, whew.
Yeah. Sometimes with sex work, like that shit, it's just like, can you
You're
not?
walking the line, and it's like, are you walking the line for like the intensity of it and like the thrill factor and getting more people, or like, yeah, that's a whole other level. But
Yeah.
then like at the same time, I've noticed because like so my basis of sex work
Mhm.
kind of has always been like public content. It
Oh yeah, I've
actually
definitely seen
started.
that from you before.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm kind of most known for. And it's funny because like I started doing public content because I couldn't film anything in my apartment. It was so dark. The
Hmm.
concept of like using ring lights or stuff like that, that wasn't a thing back
It
then. So
definitely
like
was not. And all
I
that
had
shit was so
office
expensive.
lamps. I had to like desk office lamps. I had like two or three on me, and I was like, this is the worst. Like, yeah, that's where I was in like 2013, 2014, using desk lamps.
It
But
felt like
yeah,
that
the
shit
whole
was so unaccessible at the time. Now, like everyone
was
has a great streaming setup, whether it's just like some 13-year-old who's making like TikToks or really anyone. It's so crazy.
right. That's all like you could really tell the year ish of the video based on the quality of the video. It's never like what lighting or anything. It's just yeah, but oh my god, now I'm like I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh, you were talking about shooting public stuff.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, so public content, I kind of like started getting into it when it wasn't as big. Like the first time I saw it was from Ginger Banks doing stuff in a
Hmm.
library, and that super inspired me. But
Definitely.
like, yeah, I wasn't filming stuff in my own place because of like lighting issues and other stuff like that. And so I had to film outdoors because that was the best lighting. That was, yeah, the best. And now it's like and like back then it was too about the thrill factor, but now more than ever it's like really about the thrill factor and like are you gonna get caught and like yeah, so it's interesting seeing how like intense the line of like
Hmm.
yeah, so it's been interesting seeing especially in that field. I'm sure there's so many other fetishes that things have like grown and changed too, but like you said, it's just interesting seeing how things have completely changed in 10 years.
Yeah. I think just like how normalized camming got over the pandemic. Something I would have
Yeah,
never assumed in my a million fucking years.
never at all. Like, yeah, even before the pandemic, getting like webcams, it was like you had a couple companies and that were the only
Hmm.
options. And like now it's like everyone's making it. There's so many microphones, there's so much lighting, it's crazy to see how much like content creation, camming for like not even sexual purposes has
Yeah.
like really grown so much in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think just like how much OnlyFans and all that stuff jumped during the pandemic. That like Beyonce had a song where she mentioned starting an OnlyFans that won a fucking Grammy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that blew my mind.
Or that
Yeah.
one Disney star who started OnlyFans and everyone got mad at her. Like
Yeah.
it's still in like a conversational way now that everybody knows about this, which is just so
Yeah.
different because porn felt so underground even when we started, when it was still like fairly above. It was like fairly mainstream. You had people like Sasha Grey who were like getting
Yeah.
mainstream stuff, and there was like still talk of it, but I feel like since the pandemic it just changed so much.
It really has. Yeah. And like the openness of how like people are, that's like, oh yeah, I do OnlyFans. Like that concept to me is crazy because like back 2013, you don't really talk about as much like, oh, I'm a sex worker. Oh, I take pictures of myself. Like that was more like a hush hush type thing. So
Yeah.
it's cool. And then at the same time, it's like interesting seeing how like Twitch people can do porn and like YouTube people, and then like how some people have become like huge on YouTube or other websites, and then they branch out into porn. And it's like back then that wasn't even like a concept or
Not
a
at all.
thing, or but at the same time, like there were a few people kind of doing that. And like yeah, just it was interesting seeing like who was big back in 2013, because I was even trying to think like who inspired me in a way to jump into sex work, and I'm like, the names I can think of is like Housewife Swag,
Hmm.
Ginger Banks.
Definitely.
Like I think I remember hearing about you like right when I was about to
Oh.
start, and I was like, hey, they're babe. And then like
I'm like,
Selena
whenever I'm on
Kyle.
someone's list when we're doing this show, I'm always like, oh,
Oh
someone
yeah,
saw my
yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like all y'all, I feel like from back then were always just like just big right out the like door, and just amazing, and just so like friendly to everyone, that I was just like, oh, this is so cool to see that. Yeah, because even like a couple years before that, you couldn't find anything. Like I was even talking to my friends from like 2008, 2009. It was like,
Hmm.
yeah, remember when we were on like chat relay and like
Oh, hell
seeing
yeah. I
dicks and stuff
remember
like
that. It
that?
was
And
dicks all the time. And then it was like,
right,
oh, I'm going to start being a cam girl 4 years later after high school.
right. Like it's crazy to see. It's crazy to hear also how many sex workers started in the whole, well, like I started in chat relay, and I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's adorable. Like, so like every few years, yeah, it's interesting to see like what's trending and how everyone's starting. So like kind of how you said with the pandemic, just everyone's jumped into OnlyFans work.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this next AVN because it's going to be so many new people who haven't ever experienced that before, and just kind of to
Yeah.
see who the hell's in this industry anymore.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. People who just jumped in, who are just going to experience the AV. Then like there wasn't ever a full blast AVN while they were a sex worker.
Nope. Yeah.
That's gonna be really interesting to
And it's going to
see.
be like 3 years of that pent up from people who
Ooh,
it's gonna be crazy. I'm like
ooh,
very excited. I'm doing some
ooh,
AVN week shows for this podcast. I've already thought about like, I'm like, what are the
ooh.
storylines for this AVN? And I'm like, that's
Yes.
the big one. Who the hell is even gonna be here anymore? Because it's gonna be all these new people who either it's their first year being nominated or they got nominated the last 2 years and they just stayed at home,
Yeah, all the virtual red carpets or awards or stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because like even have you been to a convention or anything since the
Yeah.
shutdown?
I've gone to two Why Not Cam Awards.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was about to say I thought I saw you at
Yeah.
Why Not last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, why not? Even that was like it was interesting seeing everyone so like pent up, because that was the first time they were able to like see anyone in almost a year. Because I think the last big convention was AVN
Yeah,
2020.
2020.
And
Yeah.
then everyone went home from that being like, what's the AVN flu this year? Like this is intense and like super
Yeah, a lot
hardcore.
of
And
people got it or got something close to it.
yeah, that's like that was the start of like, yeah, but that was the last time any convention happened, and then why not? So yeah, it was crazy to see how like pent up everyone was and how like it was like the conversations I would have. I feel like so many people would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't talked to anyone about
For
sex work,"
real,
and like, because
100%.
it's yeah, you don't have people like and friends to talk about it out loud. So it's like you're always talking about like other parts of your life that it's like, oh, we can talk openly about sex work again. Like this is an interesting feeling.
Definitely just like having that moment of just being like on the red carpet again. It was like where the fuck am I? This is part of my life
Yeah.
again. Like it's so weird
Right?
because I think particularly since the pandemic, I'm assuming you're probably working mostly at home, or if you do work with people, you're probably doing it fairly locally. Like I haven't left the
Mhm.
Bay to do sex work other than award shows since the pandemic. So
Oh
like
wow.
it's really been, if I'm working anywhere, it's either in Oakland or it's in San Francisco. Like I've
Oh
been some other
wow.
places, but I haven't shot anywhere else. So it's this weird thing where it feels like I'm a local performer again, but we're still getting nominated for
Yeah.
these big awards and shit. So it's this really weird kind of
Yeah. Oh, that
reset.
would be. Huh, especially yeah, with just the bay and not because like I think I've just been spoiled that like one of my doctors that I go to for all my
Mhm,
injuries is in LA. So I have to go out a couple times a year. And
mhm.
so when I do, I crazily set up my schedule where, oh my, I don't even know how I do this. Even talking about it is exhausting. I'll like wake up, go straight to my doctor's, get all this like Chinese traditional acupuncture
Yeah.
done and then drive immediately to someone's house in LA to film for like 3 hours, 4 hours. And so like I started and I hadn't done that until the pandemic. So it was weird doing that and like just being like, I don't in my brain, I was like, I don't understand how I'm doing this during the pandemic. But it's like we were also safe, everyone was tested.
Yeah.
We were all like, anytime anyone felt any kind of illness, we'd just like cancel for the day and everything was chill. But like it's been interesting seeing like people there and then like at the same time there's been people that I'm like, do you want to film with me? And then they're like, well, you film with other people that week and I don't want anything to
Yeah.
pretend. So yeah, it's interesting seeing how many people were just like, I can't because you're not local and you're not here to shoot with and like the yeah. So it's interesting seeing people's like responses to wanting to work with them from before the pandemic and after because now there of course there should
Yeah.
be so much like precaution but yeah just seeing people be so worried about that now.
Yeah. It's just so different now where I feel like each shoot is like, okay, I might get COVID from this. Is it worth it? You know?
Yeah, yeah, and like the rapid tests right before and like just making sure everyone's
Yeah.
okay
Yeah. I
and
got
even
COVID
then
off one set
oh
last year.
no.
And I took a last minute shoot. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And I got it. And I was like, fuck. But now it's just like, I feel like everything with COVID, I was actually thinking about this last night. Everything is just, you have to be flexible. You have to allow for change to happen. You have to be able to kind of go with it because there's so much shit that can happen. You could book a 5-person orgy or 6-person orgy and then 3 have to drop out.
True,
And it's like
true.
just about rolling with it, being like, okay, we're going to find a way to make some cool stuff and we're going to have this, even if it's not exactly what I imagined, you know?
Yeah. And at the same time, I feel like that's part of sex work too, and going to
Yeah.
conventions is like even before the pandemic, it's like you know that if you book like especially if you fully book yourself for a
Hmm.
convention, you'll know at least like 25%, 20% will cancel just because of tiredness, busy, sickness, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of easy adaptation in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh man, it's really crazy thinking about how everything has changed in 10 years. All the
Yeah, that's why I'm so glad
resources.
we get to chat because I'm like, there's very few people who
Yeah.
I'm like, especially you being from, you've had your entire career on the West Coast as well, essentially. So
Yes.
it's very
Yeah.
cool to have someone else also have that experience.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
So
When will
when
10 years be for you?
well, I started camming in 2011. So when I won my Why
Oh,
Not Cam Award, it was
hit your
actually
10.
10 years to the week. So
Oh,
that was really nice
congrats.
being like, oh
That's
wow, I
so
put 10 years in
cool.
this, but 10 years in porn is going to be April I think 14th or 13th, something around there.
Oh, nice. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I'm like about that same week. Like it's mid-April
Oh wow.
2013 for me.
So was it shooting on your own was your first shoot, or did you shoot with someone else?
Oh yeah, no, it's shooting on my own. I guess I consider my first time getting into the sex
Mm-hmm.
industry is joining my girlfriend. I
Oh,
think that's what it
nice.
was. That I was like, I'm at least joining a site now. It's not just me DIYing itself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think I jumped in 2013 April on my girlfriend, and then and then between camming and that, I think that's when I was camming more than clip sites. Yeah, I was camming way more. And then I think it was like, yeah, early 2015, I got banned from my girlfriend. And so I was like, well, I have to join like an actual clip site now. So
Mm-hmm.
what's I think I even just Googled like clip site porn or like clip site triple X, and like many vids was one of the first ones that popped up just because it was
Oh
so new
wow.
and
So you got on
everything.
there very early.
Oh yeah, yeah. I jumped in
Wow.
2015. Yeah.
Damn. So you were like way ahead of the trend on that. I think I got on like 2018. It was very late.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's when the competition is really harsh. Yeah. Yeah, I love telling people I was a top 50 many vids model back when nothing mattered. Like yeah, back then it was like so easy to be in the top 100 contests. There were like 2 pages maybe of models. Like yeah, it's interesting even like seeing who was around from back then, because I think about like Destiny Diaz, Little Puck, Katie, or
Yeah.
yeah, Kat Candescent, and like just the original kind of many vids people, but it's changed so much since then. Like
I
not even
mean,
just videos, but everything.
as you know, like there's probably 3 people who are still around porn who started the same time as you.
Yeah.
Like it's really
Yeah.
crazy when you look back and you're like, oh, these were like my peers, and there's like 2 people left basically.
Yeah. And yeah, I start thinking about like all the friends I've made in the
Hmm.
past 10 years, and I'm like, wow, most of them have left
Yeah.
or like completely retired or just, and I'm happy for everyone, no matter what choice they make. But it's just
Hmm.
like, it's interesting seeing how 10, like, I'm fascinated to see how like us surviving 10 years of all these changes and all these law changes, especially compared to like people who started during the pandemic and the next like 8 years that they're gonna have. Like, are they gonna go through the same like crazy? Are they gonna go through more? Because it's become like, I feel like because OnlyFans has become so big during the pandemic, everyone knows about it. So
Hmm.
lawmakers are like, no, stop this, everything. And like, so it's like it becoming so big has also like imploded in on itself.
Yeah. I feel like particularly in the United States, like
Yes. I
the
feel like
leg
this is very US. Yeah.
yeah.
Europe and other countries, it's yeah, but US, yeah.
Yeah. That's like the shit that makes me be like, I want to leave this country so bad. Because like
Yes.
I'm from this really small town north of Chicago that's entirely Dutch.
Oh
So it's like
wow.
super conservative though. So the first time I went to the
Ooh.
Netherlands, I was like, wait, you mean my job is like a baseline normal job here and it's
Aw,
everywhere? So
yeah.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
planning
that
to
must have
move.
been so cool to see.
It blew my mind. Courtney Trouble and I
Wow.
had a screening there and it was like sold out. And I was just like, what the fuck? How
Oh
does this
my
place exist where it's like I have my best screening there? There's weed everywhere, which I'm a huge stoner.
God. Oh
And
yes.
then it was like sex work is everywhere. There's brothels everywhere.
That is
It-
so cool.
yeah. It like blew my fucking mind. And I think I'm gonna move there for at least 3 months this year. So I'm really excited. I
Ooh.
also got engaged in Amsterdam this last year. So
Oh,
yeah.
congrats. Oh my God, that's
Thanks.
so
I think I'm breaking
exciting.
this on the podcast. I don't think I've talked about this on the
Ooh,
podcast, but now everyone
congratulations.
knows. If you don't follow my Instagram,
Oh,
that's what they get for not knowing, I
oh
guess.
my God. Apparently I'm
Thanks.
not paying attention enough on Instagram. Oh my God.
And like
Oh
I felt like I
no.
was spamming it so hard, but the algorithm.
I was about to say, like,
Right? Shadow
half the
banned.
time,
Exactly.
exactly. You have to like it's not until you like search for someone and you have to like dig through their
Hmm.
feed a certain amount that it's like finally something clicks in the algorithm that
Yeah,
they'll hop on. But it's like really sometimes I'm talking to people in my messages and I'm like, I haven't seen your life in like 4 or 5 months. I feel
for
like a
sure.
dick. But it's like the algorithm, and it's like I want to make a sign that it's like I'm not a dick. It's the algorithm. I'm
For
sorry.
real.
Like
It's just so hard to know what like anyone's seeing or any of that anymore. But yeah, I just feel like so much of my stress around sex work here, even though I do legal sex work, which fuck all legal bullshit,
right,
hierarchy
yeah,
bullshit. It should all fucking be legal as long as it's consenting and
yes,
shit. But
100%.
like, it's just like you're living under this veil of like, shit, are they gonna take my bank account for no reason? Are they gonna do this for no reason?
Yeah.
It's just like an every fucking day thing, you know? And
Right.
like
And it's like
getting
you
to
have to worry about the sites. And then, like you said, you have to
uh-huh.
worry about the banks. Like you got to
Thanks.
worry about it from all ends. And it's
And
like,
even like I camming's pretty normalized now, but I still have the fear. I'm like, what if my landlord finds out I'm doing sex work? I live in like a bigger
yeah,
apartment and stuff, but it's still like, well, if they find out, are they gonna be like, well, that's sex work. You can't do that here or whatever
right.
bullshit. And you just like truly don't know in this country. And that's
You
so
really
much why
don't.
I just like, particularly in the Netherlands, it's obviously not perfect by any means with sex work. There's still politicians trying to criminalize it in different ways and try to reduce
Yeah.
it or move it out of the city. But just like that, it's a general idea that's like, well, of course you're a worker, you're part of society, you know?
Oh, yeah. Is there still like at least a community sex work feeling in the Bay, at least?
Honestly, not that much anymore. There's only really two studios left. There's Trouble Films, which I work for, and
Yeah.
Crash Pad
Yeah.
Series. And then
Yeah.
everyone else is priced the fuck out, obviously. You know
Oh,
about how the
no.
Armory closed, right?
I didn't know about how they
Yeah.
did. I just know they did.
I'm gonna say the friendly answer on here.
Oh,
I have
no,
more
for sure.
information of, but like basically their accounting and coding got very convoluted. So
No.
they didn't really have much as far as analytics. So I think that as well as like just the price of everything in the city going up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, only two studios left? There used to be
Um
so many. Wow.
yeah, it's well, Kink.com now shoots out the same dungeon Trouble Films does. So it's this like weird
Oh,
thing where we're both making
oh,
BDSM
nice.
content in the same space.
Oh,
So it's a
that's so
little
cool though.
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's really not much. I think Treasure Island, which is like a
Okay.
gay porn company, is still here as well.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
I think that's
nice.
about it.
Wow. Huh. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Decade.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like it's like I don't know about you, but I feel like especially once FOSTA SESTA kicked in and like the openness of like talking about rapes and everything online kind of
Hmm.
just got more hush hush and just like at least here like the community sex worker community kind of like it stopped existing because of
Hmm.
that and like just because everyone was just so worried to talk about it especially publicly or even with other
Hmm.
people. Yeah.
I think here it's just the price of everything. I mean, just what costs to live in the city anymore is so fucking ridiculous that everyone I know has some backup plan to move out, essentially. Just
Wow.
because, you know, you can't get a bedroom here, I think for probably under like 2,800 for like a one bedroom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. I
Yeah,
got I got I
exactly.
got priced out of San Francisco in 2012. Yeah, I got priced out.
Yep.
Yeah. I was paying 20 and man, you talk about the prices. I'm like, wow, my what I'm complaining about sounds like a steal now. Um so back then I got priced out because I was sharing a two-bedroom, two-bathroom apartment with three other people for 2750 and like the apartment was from
Yeah.
like the early 1900s. It was
Yep.
pretty horrible. But like you just said, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's a steal now in the
It
city." It's
is.
like,
Stuff went down
wow.
for a little bit during the pandemic.
Mhm.
I was living in a really old place in the Sunset that was like super. I think it was
Oh,
good before the pandemic, but then when everyone was inside the entire building all the
all the
time,
time.
it got really bad where we
I was
had like,
wondering.
yeah, we had a flea outbreak, which was not fun because someone
Oh
was
my
letting their
God.
cat go in and out of the building. We
Oh
had
my
rats in the
God.
basement, which is straight my biggest fear in the
Yep.
world.
That's pretty normal for
Yeah.
what my experience in San
Yep.
Francisco. It's always rats in the basement.
So we ended up finding this like brand new luxury apartment that was less for some reason in the
Oh,
height of the
good.
pandemic. So that's where we are for now. They jacked up our
Oh,
rent, but hopefully we're gonna move to the Netherlands in I think 4 or 5 months.
I hope you
So
will too.
yeah,
That's so
even if it's
exciting.
only for a little bit, at least it's like, oh, I got to experience not being criminalized as a
Exactly.
sex worker every day of my life.
Yeah, just I feel like being able to feel that freedom just like
Hmm.
on your body will like just you'll be able to breathe and like not be so tense. And like, oh
It's
my, I
really
really hope you
different.
get that.
Yeah. Me too.
Wow.
Well, here's to hoping, but
Yes.
yeah, it's I think it's just so hard here now as a sex worker because it feels like all the stuff that did happen here is almost a different city.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why even when you talk about it now, I'm like, that doesn't sound like San Francisco to
It
me. And like
doesn't. Nope.
that's a strange concept. Wow.
Yeah. So when you started making all your own stuff, was it a pretty natural transition for you to be like, this is what I'm going to do full time, or was it pretty gradual?
Um, trying to think. So when I started, I think I started because I wasn't pulling enough at my like normal jobs. I was kind of just like in the grocery store
Hmm.
business and kind of just wanting to pull in extra help. And then it kind of just slowly turned into I went back to school to because in Washington State, it's crazy. In California, you can't get this because there's so many people. But in Washington, if you're over the age of 20, well, no matter what, if you're over the age of 26, you're not considered under your parents' taxes
Hmm. Yeah.
anymore. But in Washington State, they have so much money in the Pell Grant system that they pay people to go to college if
Oh,
you
wow.
qualify. So I got paid to finish my like degrees out and even while I was finishing my degrees out, like I was still doing sex work hardcore. I'm still in sex work, but I'm still doing sex work hardcore and like I never once ever thought about like maybe this will transition me out. Maybe I'll be able to quit.
Hmm.
Like I think once I found sex work and found this like outlet for me to have to be able to like express myself this way, I think that's what I love most. And just the fact that like other like people like that and will like be
Yeah.
willing to be my fans and like follow me around sites, like that concept's just mind blowing on its own too. So I think just because like it sex work started for me as like an outlet and also needing that extra money. But as I like kept getting like other jobs, I always just kept finding myself like wanting to do sex work more and like I love being able to go all out on sex work but still try to do something else too,
Hmm.
just because like when I have tried to go all in sex work 24 hours a day, like that's all I do, I get burnt out so
Yeah.
easily that it's like, and I know this is like privileged to say that like I can't just do sex work as a full-time job, but like it burns me out. I've tried to
Yeah.
force myself, I think multiple times, even when the COVID shutdown first happened and stuff like that, even before that, but just no matter how full-time I try to go with sex work, I gotta get something else. Just I think I just love sex work too much that I'm just like I don't want to burn myself out to the point that like I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. That totally
So
makes sense.
yeah. So like I was still like doing jobs when I was going to college and still doing sex work. And that's really when I was heavy into sex work the most. And then I got into car accidents. So I kind of had to step back a little bit.
Hmm.
And then yeah, once COVID happened, I had to focus completely on sex work. And still now like sex work full time and everything, but because of health reasons, it's more
Hmm.
that I had to step back. If I could, I'd be full blown collaborating with people all the time, doing a lot of content and stuff like that. But it's been interesting because like when I started sex work, even like before the car accidents, my life is 24/7 sex work. Like
Yeah.
I wake up, I constantly just start doing sex work, filming, talking, messaging all throughout the day. All my friends know I'm always on my phone doing sex
Yeah.
work, all that stuff. So that's why I was just like, I mean, maybe it was good that I got into a car accident because I even asked my husband, like, what did I do? Like, I get so tired trying to keep up with sex work now
Mhm.
that it's like, what was I like? What did I do before the car accidents? How was I doing sex work? And my husband was like, you were like stressed out, burnt out, just
Yeah.
constantly working. That's just how it was. That's what sex work was. And so now it's like, even when the accidents, my dog's coming in. So
Oh,
now when
so
the
cute.
so when the he knows I'm getting all stressed out.
Oh,
When the
that's so
accident first
adorable.
happened, I tried working like full time and stuff, but like yeah, my body just wouldn't let me. So I've had to like kind of step back and find another income source too through my pottery, but like
Hmm.
just I just can't. Sex work is just so amazing, being able to make the connections with fans, with other sex workers, like everything about it. I'm just so thankful for sex work.
Yeah, I think like you just need to have a balance. Like I did not have a balance
Yes.
until literally the pandemic. I was
Oh
so burnt
no.
out all the time.
Oh
I
gosh.
was
No wonder I just
like,
saw you everywhere before the pandemic though.
yeah.
Like I was always like, how do you have time, energy for all this?
I
Like
did
everything's
not.
always
I
releasing
did
all the
not.
time.
That's
I don't
why.
understand. Like that's like, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's 100. I did
Oh.
not. I did not have a life apart from sex work. It was just like, well, I moved to California to do sex work, so this is what I'm here for.
Especially when you move, yeah, and you make that
Yeah,
full leap. I'm sure
yeah,
it's even more like you gotta full
yeah.
blown,
Because
yeah.
yeah, when I moved here, I was like, I'll probably last 6 months here. That was my going into.
Oh
I'm like, it will last
really?
6 months, and then I'll have a story to be like, oh, I went to California. I did porn for 6 months.
Ah, you're too badass. We want you for decades and decades.
So yeah, I like was definitely part of that whole artist mindset for a while of like, well, I have all these problems and shit I need to process probably in therapy, but I'll just pour it all into my art. And like
Right?
short term, it's great. I got nominated for a lot of awards. I made some good movies. But then
Yeah.
when like everything stopped with the pandemic, it was like, okay, obviously you're not gonna be shooting porn right now. You can cam, but like you're gonna have to have a
Yeah.
life other than that. So for me to like
Yeah.
be forced to have a work life balance by not having to travel and do all this shit, that's what
Yeah.
it made me like be like, okay.
Oh man. Yeah, I at the same I didn't even think about like the whole concept of before the pandemic, if like you were just shooting, flying studios and
Yeah.
stuff, to go from that to like I actually now that you mentioned, I think that was like the biggest thing that we kind of talked about at Why Not was that like people, oh my God, I love that. I just forgot what we were talking about again.
Um, just like burnout in general.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like
I
sex
totally
worker
forgot.
burnout.
Yeah, but
Um,
oh
yeah, like the pandemic made a lot of people stop and be like, so what's my actual life like?
yeah. Yeah. And like that's why I guess that's kind of what I was saying was
Yeah.
that like before the pandemic, I was primarily solo, kind of filming with other people a little
Hmm.
bit, but like I was already, I'm in this alone, I'm here alone, I have to film, I have to, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm like to go from shooting, filming, flying out for all
Yeah.
that, and then but I'm glad that you found a home studio. That's really great.
Yeah. I mean, it really, I feel like worked out. Just I needed a stop, and it just took a global pandemic that stopped the entire world for a few years. That I got
Right?
my mental health in line.
That's exactly how I feel though, but gosh, yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny to think about it in that way, where it's like, yeah, I definitely had multiple times where I'm like, I don't think I'm getting anything out of it anymore. Because, at
Yes.
some point you're so far in and you're so inside it that you can't see any progress, where you're
Yes.
like, I'm doing these same things over and over again. I'm having success, but I'm not happy because you're so burnt out.
Yeah. Having the constant having to keep up with all the trends with following each site and what's become popular and how things are changing. And it's like, and that's why I'm even like, before when we first started sex work, there were like a couple sites, couple cam sites, and now it's like there's so many different options that it's like you have to be like, should I focus on these couples? Should I just diversify? How much energy do I have? Like, and then it's yeah, ugh. That's where I'm like, I I really feel like the glory days for me for sex work was like 2017, 2018, just because I want to say I think that was pre-FOSTA. Shoot, that might even be post. But okay,
Yeah.
the couple years before FOSTA, like that was really when things like I feel like we weren't on anyone's radar. There weren't
Yeah,
like just
definitely
tons
not.
of lawmakers trying to change everything. So many different social media sites trying to like you said, shadow ban us more. Like that wasn't really too much of a
Hmm.
concept. And it's like now because it's become so popular, yeah, it's just there's so many stop signs everywhere now.
Yeah, I think the one thing that makes me really hopeful though is that studios have no power anymore. So
Yeah,
like there's not these gatekeepers anymore being like, we can't have fat people, we can't have trans people, we can't have people of color. Like all that shit's
yeah.
mostly gone because it's just the performers shooting with each other now.
True. I guess something that I did see during the pandemic, because I have become a couple friends with some people from I think Colombia and Argentina, is
Hmm.
that once the pandemic did hit, that's when studios in other countries, especially South America, became popular because people didn't have the ability to do it in their homes. So it was like, fine, we have everyone gets tested, everyone makes sure it's clean of COVID. So like I feel like I had never seen so many people working for studios outside of the US, like in
Mm.
more Latin countries, until COVID happened. And like that as a, like is so amazing and mind-blowing that like there's a safe space. Well, at least all the people that I've talked to, they're part of safe spaces that like
Hmm.
it's like 10, 15 of them filming there or like, yeah, camming or anything. And so it's really great to see that like the pandemic has opened it up for other people in other countries in
Hmm.
that sense that they're able to do that now.
It seems like there's just so much porn that's happening now in South America, and there's like porn festivals there. I've done a few screenings in like Chile and
Ooh,
Argentina lately. Like it seems like it's really starting to
nice.
become more of a thing, and like
Oh,
that excites me
good.
so much that porn is like growing internationally and that it's continuously
Yes.
getting bigger now, and it's not just here in Europe anymore. That
Yes.
it's really becoming a bigger worldwide thing is so cool to me.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that
Yeah,
is
it's like
so cool.
it's one of my favorite things about AVN because I feel like it's kind of like a porn Olympics because you get people from everywhere in the world doing all sorts of stuff that you didn't even know existed. And you just like
I
see
know.
everyone and you're just like, oh, okay. You make
Huh.
only porn based off farting. Okay, great for you. And you're up for 15 AVNs. Oh
Love
wow,
that.
great. You know?
Oh my God. So I've actually never been to an AVN. So that's why I'm like, I've always just heard the stories and like heard everyone else. So that's really cool. I didn't know it was like that.
It's so fucking big. That's like the one thing that always
Oh,
blows my mind because I feel like I always have a grasp on porn and how big it is, but when you go to that, it truly like takes over part of Vegas.
wow.
So
Huh.
it's like, yeah, just truly way bigger than I could ever imagine. So I hope you get that opportunity
Yeah.
someday, whether it's this year or next or
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. I think the biggest one I've been to was like Exotica. And I even told like
oh
a couple
yeah.
people like, oh, this is so huge. There's so many people from all over the world, like you said. And there were so many people that were like, oh, this is like a quarter of AVN or like like it's nothing compared to AVN. So I'm just like,
It's kind of
yeah.
overwhelming. Yeah.
I think that's why I'm also just so scared of AVN too, just because of how intense it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely both. It's really strange to go into a place, especially like if you're nominated, that's like this could be the career defining thing. And like
Yeah.
knowing you're going into that day, it's really fucking weird.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
there's so many people that it's oh sorry, that's my alarm. But yeah, yeah, it's so cool to see so many people like just that's their especially to see so many people that's their first
Yeah.
time going to it's so amazing to see how much they grow after that and how many like collaborations they do. And like, it's really fun, I feel like, to see people like explode during or after conventions because just
Hmm.
their success or their vibe or their energy or something just
Yeah.
becomes so great that, yeah, so that's just wonderful seeing. It's
Yeah,
good.
doing
Yeah,
the
like you
red
said.
carpet and like
Oh,
having doing like the red carpet and then having someone next to you who like they've been in this industry for like 13 years. They're from like a small town in like rural Canada or something, and they're like, "This is my first time. This is what all my work has been for." It's just like so cool to see all those experiences, you know?
yeah, yeah, because like even the Why Not Awards, when I was in the red carpet line, I was next to Nell Parker, and they were like, "I just started sex work," like, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's so amazing!" Like, and you're nominated, like, and then that's like, this is your first time at anything too, like, oh, like, yeah, it's so amazing.
Was this award show this last year, or was that the year
The
before?
last one, yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
2021,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I was in line with Nell this year. So I'm like, oh, were you behind
Oh,
us?
oh no, I wish. Oh, that's
Okay.
so cool.
Yeah. So I have one final question for you. Well, actually, I have two. So first off, thanks for coming on. It's been so great just to chat about all this porn stuff that, my girlfriend, I haven't heard of that in so long.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't remember the
So
last time I met someone that was on live, Jasmine. So this is so cool. Thanks for
it's
having me.
such a long throwback. So what do you still want to accomplish in your career that you haven't so far? Because you've been in it for 10 years and you've been nominated for a shit
Ooh.
ton of awards. Like,
Ah, I don't know. I so honestly, for my 10-year anniversary, I doubt
mhm,
I'll be able to. It'll be probably more like my 11-year anniversary. But I wanted to film my first orgy
hell
as like
yeah.
a celebration. Yeah, that's kind of something I always really wanted to do. Um, yeah, I'm not really, I feel like now that I'm like hitting my 10 years and I've been nominated for so many awards that I'm
Hmm.
just like, I don't need nominations anymore. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
fine. Like I'm just, that's been so rewarding. I feel like seeing my name next to so many people who do such great work.
Yeah.
So I'm just like so amazingly thankful for that, like out of my mind. I thought I was just gonna be filming doofus iPhone porn that like
For
maybe 10
real.
people would watch. So it's like it's crazy to see how much it's blown up. But I don't know. I feel like just everything that I've accomplished in the past 10 years just makes me so happy. And like I feel like just being able to continue this, being able to
Hmm.
like continue to connect with people, like see fans grow over the years,
Hmm.
and just maybe something I'd want to do is like do a fun lunch meetup with fans and stuff. Like my dream has always been to like go to AVN and be like, hey fans, want to have dinner with me? Like let's have lunch. Let's smoke
Yeah.
and like hang out and do whatever. And like so that's I'm like I feel like the biggest things that I haven't done in my career yet that I really want to do is just really be able to like connect with fans more. I
So
think that's
next year,
just
AVN, you can meet up and smoke with fans and then shoot an orgy with a bunch of other
perfect.
performers. Like,
Yes.
I feel like you can
2024.
make that
Let's
happen.
go.
Like, I'm putting that into the universe for you. Hopefully it can
Yes,
manifest.
please. Hopefully, we might. Hey, I might be able to make it to Amsterdam or something, or like
Yeah,
you can
let
make
me
it to
know. Let me
AVN
know.
too. Hey.
So, I have one final question for you. This is like my only like BuzzFeed kind of bullshit question.
Ooh, cool.
Well, if you listen to the podcast, you know what it is. So, if you could magically wake up tomorrow and one thing in porn would magically be changed, what would you have it be?
Oh man. So I have actually been thinking about this question for weeks.
Wow, way more
What?
preparation than.
Well, it's more like what isn't like what part would I change? There's like you said, so much has happened in 10 years
Yeah, for
that it's
sure.
like I want to say either FOSTA SESTA, that like not existing,
Hmm.
or like the use of Craigslist and back pages and all that stuff. I wish that could come back for safety and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, I think those are like the big things that I'm like, I just wish that happened differently and didn't. make people more like, it just became so much difficult, so much more
Yeah,
difficult.
puts people
Like
in
this,
danger, like straight
exactly,
up.
such horrible danger. And like just hearing the stories of what happened to people after back pages is just, I really wish I could go back and change all of that. Because yeah. What about you? I've always wanted to ask.
Well, now, so obviously we're in a giant chlamydia outbreak in the industry right now,
Oh,
which is
yes.
very not good. So my answer was always like, let's just move along with like studios having less power, content trade, all that shit. But now we're seeing the real issues with content trade is that there's people who just straight up lie about having chlamydia because they feel like they have to shoot because they have to get this many updates per month.
Ooh,
So
ooh,
I
ooh.
think I want that to continue, but I mean, like the industry to move in that direction, not chlamydia, obviously.
No, yeah.
I'm not pro chlamydia. So I think maybe that and us having a real formalized testing thing that's free and accessible for
Yeah,
performers. And I don't know if you do it as a
yeah,
way of being like, oh, if you've been in this industry for this many years, or you shot with this studio, or you've been nominated for this many awards, you get free testing. But I think they need to do something like that
yeah.
because,
Oh, that
like,
would be an interesting
yeah,
concept.
I don't know how it's gonna happen. Maybe like I don't want the state to get involved, but in the same way, like how there's like commissions for like boxing or fighting or whatever, maybe there should be a thing
Oh,
just to be like, we're going to take care of testing for this industry specifically. Because like if you're a
yeah.
boxer and MMA fighter, there's like fluid exchange because there's like blood and all that stuff where they all have to get tested by the state commission so they can make sure like no one has
Oh,
any like no one's HIV positive or has a bloodborne illness or anything that can be transferred. So I
oh.
think like maybe something like that, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think the government should get involved in sex work because they've
Right?
proved
It's like,
time after time that they cannot be
oh,
trusted. So
it's like that concept sounds so amazing, but then yeah, when you think about who's running it, it's like, well, that would never happen.
yeah, and then Newsom decides one day, oh no, we can't have any porn anymore.
Yeah. Oh my
So
God.
I think
Or
some
even
kind of testing thing, but
if just like how everything's talent testing and like pass, like even if think like even if we could use like LabCorp or like other like blood draw
yeah.
services so it'd be cheaper and like easier and like yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the hard part with content trade because, like, as we were saying before, people just straight up move to Vegas now, and you can become a porn star if you put enough time and effort in. Like, anyone kind of can. And
Oh
like, I
yeah.
was talking to people on this podcast who were more like, in the last generation performers, like the ones before us. Like, oh, I talked to
Ooh.
Stoya on this, and we were
Oh,
talking about it, and because for her, she was like, well, when you get in the industry, you go to this studio, then this studio, and that's kind of how your career builds.
wow.
And now that it's just like you can move to Vegas, they're like, that's kind of terrifying. It's like it kind of is, but also there's the freedom of being an artist now where you can move and really make
Yes.
it happen. But at the same time, it's so risky where
Wow.
people who moved during the pandemic, like Roxy Moth, I don't know if you know who she
Yeah.
is. Yeah, she was on the pod last year talking about how she moved during the pandemic, and it's like,
Yes.
what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? Are you gonna be like, okay, I moved here cross country. Should I just move home or should I try to perform during all of this? And it really puts performers kind of in a difficult spot because it's really your career is up
Oh
to you at
yeah.
that point, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, because even like as you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, the thing to do 10 years ago was like everyone flew out for studios in
Yep.
LA and lost like that everyone I knew of that did stuff, they were all living in like Michigan, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like wow, now I've totally forgot about that until you said that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's just such a whole different world now, which I think in some ways it's great.
Oh,
I am super down with the performers running everything and the studios having as little power as
yeah.
possible. I think there's still some directors who are adding things to this industry, but I think especially when
Yeah.
we started, a lot of these directors weren't adding anything. They were just
No, it was
Essentially like just some creepy guy who owned a camera, you know?
exactly. It was like if you had the money and the resources to do it, then you were it. That's what people
Yeah.
use. Like that was the only choice. And it's
Uh-huh.
like it's yeah, seeing I've seen so many people's like home studios, and then half the time it's like a second home studio, and it's just like, yeah, seeing how everything has completely changed. It's like, wow, you have your own studio. Like that concept is crazy. Like,
Yeah, it really is. It's just so crazy how
wow,
different it is, but yeah,
yeah,
I think we
but
gave
amazing.
people a very heavy thing to go out on, but I feel like that's kind of where this industry is right now, where
Yeah,
obviously content trade is a good thing, it empowers performers, but without having a real testing thing that is accessible for everyone and, you know, making it feel like performers literally can't skip a shoot,
yeah.
it's just a really hard situation that I feel like someone needs to step in, but I don't necessarily know who that should be or
Yeah. There's like no form of any kind of hierarchy in sex work that could be able to take this
yeah,
and move. Like, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Yeah.
yeah. Well, everyone get tested before your shoots. It's okay to miss a
Yeah.
few shoots. You're gonna be
Yes.
all right. Hopefully.
Always be open with your partners, how you're
Yeah.
feeling, even post shooting. Just
Hmm. All of that.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everyone find you on social media and everything?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been
Of
so great to
course.
talk to you. Oh my gosh. On Twitter, I'm Kezia420 underscore KEZIA 420 underscore. But you can find all my links at allmylinks.com/Kezia420.
Well, thank you so much. I hope to
Thank
hear
you.
from you again. If you're at
Yes,
AVN in the next few years, would love to have you on for an AVN pod and have your
I'd
first
love that.
experience and all of that. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you and congrats on the new season.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good day.